Okay, let's start. Here are those. So we're over here. Anybody does anybody know where we're at? Probably Genesis, yeah. Probably Genesis. We've been going over you guys. We've been going over this for Joseph. We've been going over for an extended period of time, right? About Joseph, and he's out of the pit though. I mean, he's on the path, right? So we're gonna go over that again today. We're gonna go over here and I'm gonna give a recap. I know I get busted on giving a recap, but I just think that we need to know where we're at, man. So that's what I'm gonna do. So anyway, we have talked about Joseph. Okay, Joseph has been over there. We've dealt with Joseph up to this point. He is the head of the prime minister of Egypt. Okay, he has already dealt with the famine, the stuff that's going on with that. So now we started dealing with his brothers, right? That came over. They had to go to Joseph, and they had to go to get grain because there's a famine in the land. We're over here in Genesis 42. They come over there. What happens when they get over there to Egypt, right? Joseph is kind of harsh with them because he has to be harsh with them. He's trying to figure out if they've changed, if they've done what they need to do. So what he does is he kind of questions them. They tell him about that they have a brother. They tell him that they have a father that's back in Canaan, right? And he says, okay. And he says, I'm going to throw you in prison, right? So he throws them all in prison, says, one of you are going to go back and you can get your brother and come back, and we're going to let you go. Lord talks to him, speaks to him, says, no, that's not the way to go. Send them all back and keep one. So they keep Simeon right there. And that was when they had a change of heart. The Lord spoke to them, and they actually changed their heart, and they actually changed what they were going to do. We've talked about in the past, when God tells us to do something, right? It is not on us to not listen to what he says, although we decide we're going to do that. I'm not going to listen to you, Lord. I'm going to do my thing. That is not the way that God would have us to do it. And so the brothers actually changed their mindset, and they said, look, man, we made a mistake. And they're talking to each other in the prison cell, and they're saying, we've messed this thing up. We threw our brother in the pit. We sold him into slavery. We didn't care what he said. We didn't. And the Lord's starting to speak to him, right? So as you move down, you get down to in Genesis 42, and you're talking about verse 25 is where we were last night, that they send them back, right? Lord makes provision for them. He gives them money in their sacks. He gives them provision for the journey, and he gives them all the grain they need to sustain. Okay, that's what he does. And he says, look, you're going to go back. So they all pack up their stuff. They start heading back. Well, what do they find as they're on their way back? What do they find? Anybody? Find the money in the sack, right? And they're like, oh my goodness, man, how did this money get in my sack? And the Lord, they're afraid, and they're like, God's trying to judge us because of what we've done. What does the Lord use in your life to judge you or to tempt you or to test you? He doesn't tempt us, but to test us in our lives, the things we have problems with, right? All these brothers from the past, they've had issues with money. They've dealt wrongfully with people. They've tried to deceive people. They've tried to, and the Lord's saying, look, what are you going to do with this money? Because you're headed home. Nobody knows you have it except for you brothers that are sticking together. You can either take it out and show your father. You can stick it away and save it for another time. You can be deceptive about it. You can lie about it. You can not say anything about it. The Lord is testing them, right, to see if they have changed. We're on a phase of God dealing with Jacob and the brothers right here. Okay, that's what we're going into. And so what do the brothers do about that? They get freaked out about it, but they're like, what did they tell Joseph over there? What was the big thing that they told him about who they were? How did they describe themselves? What did they say they were? Speak up.
All of one family.
All of one family. Yeah.
Family with Jacob as their father.
Okay, but how did they describe themselves? Honest men, right? They said, we are honest men. We have changed. We're honest men. We are, right? So that is what they're going on, and they're saying as they go back. So if they have said that they are honest men to Joseph, and that they are changing the Lord has spoken to them, they're actually trying to change who they are, right? If they are honest men, then are they going to go back to their dad and say, hey, whatever, and they're going to lie to their dad? No, man. They're saying, look, we have changed, man. As God starts to change us, right? Do you think you're going to be tested in the way that you've been changed? When he tells you something, look, I'm telling you, I'm not going to smoke, right? He tells John, man, John, quit smoking. John says, I'm going to quit smoking, right? So, well, then all of a sudden he's going through his stuff at the house and he finds a pack of cigarettes, right? And he's like, man, Lord, why are you testing me, man? You know, I quit this and I don't want to do this. And I've told you I've given it up. And how are we going to deal with it? We're going to smoke a cigarette because nobody can see us? Or we're going to say, Lord, I'm doing this for you. I'm not doing it for everybody else to see. I'm doing this because this is what you've told me to do. That's what he does to these guys. He says, here's this money. How are you going to deal with it? So they say, look, we've already said we're honest men. We are literally trying to change the way that we're living. So we're going back. And so we're going over here to Genesis. And like I said, I'm just doing a recap real quick. Genesis 42. And when they get to verse 29 right here, okay, and it says they went to Jacob, their father, right? Their father, the one that sent them. The father is the one that should have been the one that should have had the honesty, the integrity, the everything in his life. That's what he should have had. He was trying to lead them, right? As we try to lead our children, when we try to lead our families, if you try to lead in your school and you lead other kids, who's the one that needs to be the one that has their heart right? The leaders, right? As a parent, as a leader in my workplace or as a leader in my school or whatever, I need to be the example. Isn't that what Paul said? He said, look, man, look at me as an example, right? Look at me. That's the way Joseph should have been right here. He should have been as an example and he should have been doing his thing. But as he gets back over here and they go through it, and I'm not going to read it, but over Genesis 42:29, they go through and they say, you know, we told them we were honest men. We told them we had a brother back here in Egypt. Back here in Canaan. We told him we still had a father. And he told us that the way that you're going to see my face again is by what? What are you going to do to be able to see my face again, be able to get grain? What are you going to do? You got to bring Benjamin back. Benjamin is the son that is from Rachel, right? He is the son that the father claims is the only true son. He is the one that ever since we talked about with Joseph, ever since Joseph left 17 years ago, what happened to Jacob? When Joseph left, what happened? He thinks he's dead. He bought the lie. He bought the lie the devil told him, said, look, he's dead. Did Jacob ever get by that?
He never got over the grief of the loss.
He never got over the grief of loss. He said, I'm going to bring this mug to my grave, man. I'm going to bring it to my grave. I'm not going to get over this. 17 years, he has been stuck in the same place because he cannot get past where he was. And I asked last week, what is it in our life that has happened in our past? What is it in our circumstances that has gone on that we cannot get over, that the Lord's saying, look, Chad, I'm telling you, if you would just give this thing up, man, if you would give it to me, if you would trust me in it, if you would do whatever, you can grow as a Christian. You can. And I say, Lord, man, I just can't give it up, man. I'm just stuck right here. I'm stuck. And I've not grown in 17 years. This is Jacob. He's stuck. He has not grown in 17 years. So when the brothers come to him and we're going down through this, and he says that, you know, they said, I'm going to know you're honest man if you bring Benjamin back. That's how I'm going to know you're honest man. And that's how I'm going to bless you. And if you bring Benjamin back, I'm going to give you Simeon out of prison. And I'm also going to let you freely trade in the land and be sustained, right? All you got to do is bring Benjamin back to me and show me that you're honest men. That was the criteria. So they go down there and they tell the father, and as they're going down, and you get down to verse 35, Genesis 42:35, it said, as they emptied their sack, surprisingly, each man's bundle of money was in his sack. Okay. So they had found at the little stopping place, one of them had found money in his sack, and they had freaked out about that, right? Didn't know what to do. The Lord's testing us. Well, now as they get to their father and they open up the rest of their stuff, they're like, holy smokes, man, we have all our money back. You know, what are we going to do with that, man? Is that a temptation for these brothers? Yeah, you better believe it. That's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of temptation for them. They again are saying we are honest men. But how does this is where we're going to look at right here. How does Jacob respond to that? So as you look down, the father said to them, okay, and this is down in verse 36. And Jacob, their father, said to them, you have bereaved me. Joseph is no more. Look, man, I'm still not over Joseph. Okay. And the father's telling you, you're still not over Joseph. He says, Joseph is no more. Simeon is no more. Who said Simeon was no more? Let me ask you that. Who said Simeon was no more? Who? Jacob said it. Who else said it? Did anybody else say it? All they said was, look, we have Simeon over there in prison. You need to bring Benjamin, and you can have Simeon back and do whatever. But the devil is speaking to Jacob and saying, look, you've already lost Joseph. Now you've lost Simeon. You're not getting Simeon back. And is that what, just like when you look at Adam and Eve and the fruit, right? And he's saying, look, God said we can eat everything except for this fruit. And the devil comes to Eve and says, he just doesn't want you to eat that because he knows you'll be like gods, man. He knows you'll know too much. And he lies to her about it, right? Mm-hmm. This is the devil coming to Jacob right here and saying, look, Simeon's gone forever, man. And he says, not only is Simeon gone, he says that, and now you want to take Benjamin. And if you let Benjamin go, let me tell you what, Benjamin's going to be gone forever too. He says, so this is the devil when he speaks a lie into our lives, when there's something in our past that we can't get over, when we're dealing with something that we haven't gotten over, he continually brings that up to us. And he says, look, man, and what does he tell us? What does the devil tell us? He tells us that, hey, look, man, you can't confess that. If somebody knows that you actually do this, then man, you think you're a Christian, man. You know what people are going to say about you. You know what they're going to talk about you. He tells us we're no good, man. He tells us we can't be forgiven. He tells us that we can't be redeemed. Those are all lies that the devil tells him. What does the Lord tell us? You're never going to change. It's not possible. And he speaks it to us, and he speaks it to us all the time. Lies, that's all he talks about.
We hold on to hurt in our pain in our past, and that's what stops us from moving forward, whether it's a death, whether it's the way something has been done to you. Reading that one book, it really goes into detail.
Oh yeah,
talking about, and it talks about Joseph.
Yeah, and whatever it is in our past that's hindering us. And let me tell you, when the devil finds something in your life that he knows is going to hinder you, then let me tell you what, he's going to hammer you on it. He's going to hammer you and hammer you and hammer you on it. And that's what he does. And he keeps you right there. He doesn't want you to get a group of people and to say, look, man, I screwed this thing up. I'm gonna confess it to you, and I'm gonna let you know because I want to be freed of it. He says, you can't do that, man. You stay right where you're at because you're right where I want you to be. Unusable for God. You can't be used. And that's what he says. So all of a sudden you have Jacob saying, you know, Simeon's gone, Joseph's gone, Benjamin's gonna be no more. I'm gonna have nothing left. And so he says, and you have bereaved me, and down here it says you want to take Benjamin. He says, all these things are against me. Everything in my life has gone haywire, man. Everything's against. No, man, this very little has gone against him. But what does the devil tell us in our life? If there's something like yesterday, I woke up and my air conditioner was out, right? 63 degrees in my house. I'm getting ready to study Sunday school because that's what I do I got a routine. I'm like, Lord, how can I study? And the air conditioner, I got to call this guy. And I started thinking, man, what else can go wrong? How much of my life can I take? How much? You know what? And then the Lord spoke to me and said, Chad, man, this is a very little thing. Get on the phone, make a phone call, and forget about it. And I really did that. Dad says I didn't, but I did pretty well with that, right? I thought I did pretty well with that. But all of a sudden, the devil speaks to you and says, man, you know, well, what about this? And what about this? And all these things that keep coming up. This is what he's saying. Everything's against me, man. Now, the Lord tells us that in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good. Everything I got going on in your life, even though it seems like a bad thing to you, everything is working out for good. And I'm telling you, if you will just follow me.
And it could take years before we realize, and we may never realize until we get to heaven why he put things in front of us.
No,
and
that's exactly right.
Even though that, you know, we're doing bad, there's some good that comes out of it because
we don't know the pieces of the puzzle. Okay. The Lord can look at the puzzle and he says, I look at this. Sharon has a puzzle sitting there on the table, man. I looked at this morning. I tried to put one piece in. I looked at that for about 5 minutes, said, forget this, man. I can't do this thing. God already sees the puzzle put together in our life. We're putting the pieces together and we get frustrated because I can't find where this piece fits. And the Lord says, don't worry about it, man. When the time is right, I will fit that piece exactly where it needs to go. And that's what he's doing in our life. So Jacob right here is saying, everything's against me. And then Reuben speaks up, and this is down in verse 37. Reuben speaks up, one of his sons, right? And he says, hey, look, man, you send Benjamin back with me. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you, if it doesn't go right, if it screws up, if something goes wrong, then I'll let you kill my two sons. And Jacob looks at him and says, what are you, a knucklehead, man? I mean, really, you can't give up your 2 sons, man. If you talk to your wife, if and he just kind of blows that off, right? So here we are, we're down. This is, and then we're going to move forward from last week down here in verse 38. It says, but he said, this is Jacob saying, he says, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead. He is left alone. If any calamity shall befall him along the way with you, with which you go, then you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Let me tell you what, the Lord right here, already Joseph is gone. Okay. The devil is using this against Jacob, right? He's already been tested, saying, stop with this favoritism stuff, right? Stop favoring one of your children. Do we do that? Do we favor somebody in our life? Do we favor a kid in our life or whatever? The Lord's saying, stop doing that. He gave him 17 years. Let me tell you what, if the Lord gives us a test, right? And I don't pass that mug, guess what? I'm going to get that test again. He's going to test me again, right? That's right. How many drive-thrus have I had to go through and get tested and tested and tested? And how many drive-thrus has Sharon had to go through that the Lord's saying, Chad, here's another chance. And I can get up to the window and start order and I lose my teeth. He said, you're going to go through it again, brother, because you didn't pass it this time, right? Again, here we go. Jacob is tested again. And what happens to him? What happens to Jacob right there? He fails the test. And he says, look, I'm going to tell you what. I don't care if the whole family perishes. I don't care if we go down to our grave. I am not going to let you take Benjamin with you, because if something happens to him, it's going to kill me. And he says, I'm not worried about the other 10 brothers that I have. I'm not worried about the family and all the people and I don't care about that. All I care about is Benjamin. How do you think the brothers feel about that? We've asked that question before. How do our kids feel when we favor somebody, or how do people feel at work when somebody's getting favored above you? I mean, you don't feel good about it. Imagine being a father that said, I'm going to let the whole family die just so I can save Benjamin. The Lord's like, man, Jacob, I'm trying to deal with you. I've tried to deal with you for 17 years. You're still not getting it, right? So this is where we're at. That's the recap from last week. Pretty good. So see how we need to do that? Okay, so let's move forward. Right, here we go. Let's move forward. So I got a couple questions. I'm going to read. We're going to see. Jeannie sent me a thing yesterday and said, well, maybe you'll make it into chapter 43 today. Well, I'm making it in, baby. I'm in. Here we are right here. We're making it in. It took me a half hour, but we're in it, man. We're getting in it. So here we go. This is Genesis 43, and I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to ask you a couple questions about this. I'm just going to read the first 2 verses, and I'm asking you some questions, okay? Now, the famine was severe in the land, and it came to pass when they had eaten up all the grain which they had brought forth from Egypt, that the father said to them, go back and buy us a little food. So you've had this, so here are a couple questions I have. How long did it take for the food to run out? Does anybody know how long it may have taken for the food to run out? You're feeding a bunch of families. You're feeding 6 months to a year. Okay, they're saying something 6 months to a year it's going to take this food to run out. Okay, so the question that I have, you've got all this food dwindling away, right? The brothers have already said to the father, they've said, look, man, we can go get more food. All we got to do is bring Benjamin back, right? That's all we got to do. We can get more food. We can do that. The father says it's not going to happen. I'm not going to allow it. So as time goes on, you've got 6 months. What do you think's going to happen into the food supply? It's dwindling out. The rain's not coming. The supplies are not there. The family's looking at each other and they're like, what the heck, man? What are we going to do about this? My kids are crying to me saying, Dad, why do I only get 1 burger instead of 3 today? Right? Your supplies are going out, right? They're not saying anything about it. Why aren't they saying anything about it? Why are they not saying anything to Jacob?
Because he's already told him he wasn't going to let him go.
He's already told him he wasn't going to let him go, right? They're trying to be respectful. They're trying to hold on and see what happens. They're just kind of, how do you think the family dynamics are?
Probably pretty stressed out.
How do you think the family dynamics are? How are the family dynamics for us when there's something, is there an elephant in the room right here for 6 months? Is there an elephant in the room? Dad, the food's running out, man. We got nothing, but nobody's going to say anything, right? So how do you think the kids are all looking at each other saying, what are we going to do? Who's going to step up and say something? How are the family dynamics in our families when we got something going on and we choose not to say anything about it? That's a good thought right there. Why does all of a sudden he's in the famine is severe? He's at the end zone right here. He has no other choice, right? So let me ask you, when you look at your marriages, right? Now we have all kinds of situations going on. There's an elephant in the room. There's something going on in a marriage, right? And you know what it is, but you're not talking about it. If I don't talk about it, then it's going to go away, man. If I don't say anything about it, it's going to go away. And it goes and it goes and it goes. And then all of a sudden your wife packs up her stuff and she says, you know what, man, I'm moving out. And you're like, wait a minute, man, all we need to do, let's go out to dinner and talk about this thing. No, we've had 6 months, a year. That doesn't work, right? What about with your kids? You see your kids going, man, I see my daughter or my son or their grades are going down. Their things are happening. They don't seem like, but I'm just not going to deal with that, man. They'll come back around. I'm not going to talk about it. And next thing you know, man, your kids commit suicide, right? I mean, I'm telling you, we've seen that. Your kids go crazy. Your kids get involved in drugs, but we don't want to say anything about that, right? This is the family dynamic right here. And I'm telling you, as Christians, right, what is our goal? To love each other, right? To make amends, to humble ourselves, to say, you know what? I know it's not always easy to tell the truth, to bring something up that's hard, but I'm going to do that because I care about our family, man. I mean, I'm
what I said last week.
Say what?
Speak the truth in love.
Yeah.
Speak the truth in love. I care about our family, man. I care about my kids. I care about my reputation. And if I have to humble myself and I have to eat crow a little bit, then you know what, man, then I'm going to do it because I care enough about it to do that. Benjamin is just so, Jacob is so self-focused on, I'm not doing it, man. I just love Benjamin too much. I'm not going to do it. He lets everything go down. Now the question is, what about Simeon? Think about that, man. Simeon's over here in prison, man. He's been over there 6 months to a year, man. What do you think Simeon's thinking? They ain't coming back, man. They've left me over here. I'm in the prison cell and that's where I'm staying. And I guess this is my life, right? Benjamin doesn't care about that either. He is so self-centered that he just does not care. So it's comical almost when he just says, after all this stuff's going on in his family, all this tension, all this kids not eating and people starving and things getting worse. And he just says, hey, man, why don't you guys just pack up and go get us a little grain? What? You can't just pack up. And that's like saying you're married, your wife's leaving and hey, man, let's go out to dinner and everything's going to be okay. No, man, there's a whole lot more stuff going on in that than that, right? And that's kind of where they're at. So you have now we're going to talk about Jacob for a little bit here. And I wrote down the famine is severe. Now, and this is where we're going to get into as you look at Joseph, right? Who does he parallel to us? Jesus, right? Joseph parallels Jesus. Okay. I want you to remember that. And that's everything that he does is kind of a representation of Jesus. Okay. So how long is this famine? How long? 7 years. Who knows about the length of the famine? Who knows how long this famine is going to last? Joseph, right? Why does he know? Because the Lord told him, right? The Lord spoke it to him. 7 good years, 7 years of famine, right? He knows that. Does Jacob know how long the famine is going to last? Doesn't have a clue, right? He's thinking, I got this grain. That grain's going to last me. This famine's going to break. It's going to start raining. We're going to get crops. We're going to make it out of this thing. Joseph already knows. He's like, not going to happen, man. Let me ask you, in your life, right? Think about your life. What is it in our life that the Lord knows is going on with us? He's already told us what we need to do. I don't know what that's all based on personal stuff, man. You got a problem in your life. We all have something going on in our life that's keeping us from being who we could be. The Lord's already spoken that to us. He's saying, look, Chad, this is the way to deal with this. this is how you need to deal with this. I've already shown you that. And I'm like, Lord, and you don't think in this whole time this famine's going on, do you think that Jacob's praying to God, God, send us rain, man, change this situation, give us a way out of this thing, and he's praying, he's getting bitter, he's getting angry, right? And when we have something going on in our life and I'm praying, Lord, change this circumstance, change this situation. And the Lord's like, I'm not changing the circumstance. I've already given you the way that you need to deal with this thing. You're going to have to deal with it my way. And Jacob is not. Yes, John.
I had read that that if you don't speak it to the Lord, where you pray, you basically confess, even though the Lord already knows that if you don't pray to the Lord about it, then the Lord's not going to be able to really work with you on it, because you've got to first admit to it.
Well, that could be. I mean, you gotta admit to what's going on in your life. And I mean, and that's, that's why the brothers are where they're at, because they started to admit what's going on. But what is it that he's telling him? He's saying, this is the way you got to deal with this. And you've got Jacob saying, I'm not going to deal with it, right? Jacob's praying his guts out. Lord, change this situation, change this circumstance. And Lord's sitting there telling him, man, I've already told you what we need to do. And he's saying, well, I'm not going to do it. He only got to this place because he was at the end of the line, right? He was as low as he could go, and only under, he just did it. So the question is, how long do we think we can do it on our own? And this is for the people online. This is for the people here. How long can we do it on our own before everything falls apart? Am I trying to do it on my own? I'm telling you, there's an easy solution that God has already given, right?
We don't want to do it.
And we don't want to do it. God has already told us, Chad, give this up, man. I'm telling you, if you give this up, you're going to be okay. If
provision provided before that problem was even there. And there was ocean before there was fish to be in it. There was oxygen before we had to breathe it. There's always a provision before
right.
the problem.
There's always a provision before the problem. The Lord's not going to give us something that we can't deal with. The Lord's going to tell us how to deal with it. We are not willing to humble ourselves to deal with it. I mean, I'm just telling you.
We're not willing to admit it's a problem.
We're not willing to admit it's a problem. That's exactly right. How long do we think we can do it on our own? Did Jacob think that he could last it out? I'm sure he did. Do we think we can last it out? When we look at the circumstance in our life, I'm thinking, if I could just make it another month, this thing's going to change, man, and it's going to get better. And Joseph's over there saying, man, if you're going to, in 7 years, you're going to get pretty skinny, man, with no food, right? No, you're not going to outlast that thing. Lord's saying, Chad, I'm telling you, you can try it. You're not going to outlast it. Lord's telling Jacob, stop your favoritism. 17 years, you're right back in the same place you are, right? That's what he's talking about. I try to, you're trying to tell your kids and to try, look, man, I'm telling you, there's only one way to do this thing. And I'm trying to show you, and you just don't want to listen to it, man. And you're not going to outlast it. It is going to destroy you, right? How many families have we had destroyed because we are not willing to humble ourselves and do the right thing, right? The Lord's telling us, and I wrote over here, and this is a good, look over here in Hebrews 13. And I wrote, how far are we willing to go down until we realize God is the only way? And because that's in our life, right? God is the only way that we can sustain ourselves and do what we need to do in our lives. And I wrote over here in Hebrews 13:8, we've read this many times. It says, Jesus Christ is the same when? Yesterday, today, and forever. He's not changing, right? He's telling us, this is the way you need to do this thing. And I'm giving you the way. I'm not changing in that. So go ahead and do it. So you have right here, Jacob is saying, just go down and get a little grain. So we get over here in verse 3 in Genesis 42:3. Only by necessity, he's saying that we're going to do this, right? Only because we're going to die if we don't. Lord, I'm telling you, Lord, I'm mad at you, and you brought me to this place, and now I've got to do this. And the Lord's saying, look, if you would have done it at the start, you wouldn't be here. You'd be done with this thing by now, right? And that's, we can, if we would deal with little problems in our lives, with our kids, with our finances, with our marriage beginning, then we would never get to that end place where everything's falling apart, right? Look at your finances, and well, Lord saying, look, Chad, you need to stop spending on this. You need to start doing it. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to keep on spending until I get to the point where I can't pay my bills and you're out on the street because you can't pay your house payment. And God said, look, man, I told you, I told you,
I
but
think as our humanly flesh, though, we want it in our time.
oh,
We
absolutely.
don't want to wait on God.
We want our
And we
way.
want it when we want it. And you know, I think if we turn to God first with those situations, it happens in his time. It happens in our time. It's the same way.
Absolutely. If we will allow him to, if we will just follow what he tells us to do, you know, but you got to think, you can't follow what he tells you to do if you don't have a relationship with him, right? If I'm not reading his word, if I'm not praying to him, if I'm not trying to have that fellowship, God is not sitting up in heaven and does not want to have a relationship with us. This is a two-way thing.
I read this week, it's hard to trust someone you don't know. And they say, people tell you to trust God. Well, it's hard to trust someone you don't know. You're not spending your time to get to know the Lord. And
That's right. How do you trust God if you don't know him? That's super true.
We've had this conversation before in another group that we've been a part of is, you know, when people are going through a trying time and they don't know the Lord, I can't imagine trying to go through a death or a hard situation, an illness, whatever it is, and not know the Lord. How lost you would be.
How hard that
Like
is.
Jacob is, yeah.
Right. You just can't get through it. You just can't get through it. So moving forward right here. So look here, it says, but Judah, this is Genesis 43. Now we're in verse 3. It says, but Judah spoke to him saying, the man solemnly swore to us saying, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you send your brother with, if you send our brother with us, we will go down and buy your food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with me. So this is they've been dealing with this elephant in the room for 6 months to a year, not saying anything, not doing whatever. And all of a sudden they're just waiting on their dad to say something so that they can respond to that. Right. So all of a sudden he says, okay, just go down and get slow. And they're like, look, Dad, we already told you this. The way that this has to happen is we have to bring Benjamin. You've already made it very clear that you're not going to allow Benjamin to go. So I'm telling you what, unless you allow Benjamin to go with us, we're not going, man. Right? Isn't that the way we should deal with things? I mean, he had to speak up to his father, right? He didn't disrespect his father and say, man, you're an idiot, man. I told you 6 months ago that we should have done this. And no, man, he said, look, Dad, we've already shown you the way that it needs to be, and you need to do that. He reminded him of the requirement. And the question that I had in here, because again, you've got to look at Joseph as Jesus, right? So Joseph says, the way that you're going to come to me, now tell me this is not interesting, man. The way you're going to come to me is by the son. Is that true? It's what he says, man. The way you're going to come to me is bring your son. And when you bring your son, you will see my face. Now tell me, as a Christian, what does the Lord tell us? And you can look at it, and that's exactly what he's saying. He's saying, look, I'm not going to come to you unless you allow me to bring the son, because I'm going to stand at that gate and I can bring all the money I want to bring. I can bring all the gifts I want to bring. I can bring anything I want to bring. And when I get to that thing, Joseph's going to be looking out there and he's going to say, nope, I don't see Benjamin, man. Guard, turn them around, man. Send them home. They're not coming in here to see me, right? How simple is it? I mean, it's simple. Just trust me and bring them in. Bring them to me. You'll see my face. I'll allow you to trade in the land. I'll give you a Simeon back. You'll see my face. What do people tell us? How many different ways do we try to come to Christ or try to get to God? How many different ways do we do that in our lives?
Through works.
Through works? Yeah, sure. Through money, through deals. I've given this, I've done this. Lord, if you'll do this, then I'll do this. And Lord said, look, it's not that difficult. I was thinking, I had a guy, and this was years ago, man, I was witnessing to, I don't even know what his religion was, but he said that, you know, that in his religion, that if they screwed up or if they did, and I think he might have been a free will Baptist. I'm not exactly sure about that. I'm not cutting down on any religion, but there's only one way to do it, right? And he said that if I didn't confess my sins immediately and I died right then I was not able to make it into heaven because I had unconfessed sin in my life. Listen, we cannot, and I'm telling you, we can't do it on our own, right? That's what God tells us. We can't do it on our own. I'm going to look over here at John 14:6, because this is huge, man. We try so much that, Lord, don't you know how much I'm giving? Don't you know how much I'm helping people? Don't you know how much I'm giving my time and my finances, and I'm willing? And the Lord's saying, it's not that hard, man. You don't have to do all that stuff. Matthew, Luke, John. So we're going John 14:6. And what does it say right here? This is in red, right? That's right. In verse 5, Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going, and how can we know the way? Right? Isn't that what we ask, man? Where are you at, Lord? How do we know the way? And what does he respond? Jesus said to him, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. There's nobody that comes to me except through me. There's nobody that comes to the Father except through me. There's no other way. How many people say we're closed-minded?
Oh, everyone.
Does it matter? It does not matter. And I'm just telling you, biblically, it does not matter what my feeling is on that. People say you're closed-minded. People say you're just one way. People say you think you're better than I am. No, I'm just telling you what the truth is, right?
Yeah.
And the word says that wide is the gate that leads to destruction, right? Narrow is the gate that leads to everlasting life. We can't do it on our own. People don't want to do that. And that's what he's telling that's what Judah right here is telling his father. He's saying, look, we aren't going to be accepted unless we do it the right way. And that's what God's telling us, because and just so you understand that, when you talk about through the Son, right? When God looks down at me as a saved Christian, what does he see? Does he see me and my sin and my trouble and my stuff? Or what does he see? What does God see?
He sees his child, his son or daughter, who's been saved by his son.
He sees the blood of Christ on me. The Lord went to the cross, right? The Lord was the only one that lived a perfect life. He went to the cross. He died on the cross. The Lord rose him up, brought him to heaven. When the Father looks down on me as a Christian, he's not looking at me because I can't do it. And that's what I'm saying. He can't do it. None of us can do it. But he sees the blood of Christ on me. And through the blood of Christ, I'm made pure. And that's the only way I can make it. And that's what he's telling him. He's saying, look, you can only do it this way. So he says to him, if you send him, we'll go. And the Father, how do you think the Father's going to respond about that? Let's look down here. And he's just being honest with him, right? He's just telling him the truth. And it says down here, it says, and Israel said, Israel is Jacob, right? It says, why did you deal so wrongfully with me as to tell the man whether you had still another brother? Why is Jacob? I mean, what is Jacob on still? Who is Jacob concerned about? Who's he concerned about? Benjamin himself, right? What does Jacob do right there? He's casting blame.
He's blaming the brothers.
He's trying to blame the brothers. He's saying, look, I'm trying to raise up honest kids, right? I'm trying to teach my kids right. I'm trying to live honest. So my kids do something honest, and well, they're in a situation and they tell the police whatever that they did this and they were in that situation. Well, they get in trouble for it, right? Then they come to me and they say, Dad, I was in a bad situation. I was in the wrong place. And I'll tell you what, I was honest with the police and I told them this. And so I'm penalized for that. Right. And do I say to my kids, what is wrong with you, man? You should have lied to these police and you should have tried to get out of that thing and you should have tried to do it another way? Or do I say, hey man, we'll accept the consequence. I'm proud of you for telling the truth. Let's deal with this thing. Right. That's what you would have thought he would have said. But all he's saying is that, why are you dealing so wrongfully with me? Why are you putting this all on me that you want to take my son Benjamin away from me? And these brothers are like, man, and you got to think Benjamin, he's 25 years old. He sees the famine. He sees everybody going down. He sees everybody hungry. And he's like, Dad, why? Just let me go, man. Right? You see the brothers, Dad, just saying, Jacob's just like, I'm not going to do it, man. How do you think Benjamin feels about that? Seeing his whole family dying because of him, right? I mean, we need to be honest about what we say. So he says to him, why are you dealing so wrongfully with me? How should we deal with people when I confront somebody with the truth, right? When I let them know, hey, Dad, The only way we're going to go is by allowing Benjamin to go. You need to smarten up. You need to humble yourself. You need to let him go. You got something to say over there? Oh, you're on camera. Sorry. And so he said, you need to let him go. You need to do your thing. And he's confronting his father, right? Nicely confronting him, but still confronting him. How do we do when we see somebody that there's a problem in their life, right? Whether it's your husband, your wife, your kids, a coworker, somebody just dealing with you, and we tell them the truth, and we say, look, man, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to tell you in love. I'm going to tell you that just like it tells it, speak the truth in love, right? I'm going to tell you that in your life, this is going on in your life, and I just want to point that out because it's causing problems, right? How are they going to deal with this?
I think we all have problems continuously, brother, and everybody's circumstances is different.
Oh yeah, we all have problems. Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm one big problem, right? I'm a big problem. But how do people deal with us when we tell them the truth?
They don't like it.
They don't like it. They're going to come back at us. I can tell my son, Andrew, and I tell him all the time, man, and he comes back, well, and wants to debate me, wants to fight me, and then I get fired up, and then I fight with him, right? And then where are we at? We try to justify it. This is the son when he comes back and says, why are you dealing with me this way? Why are you doing this to me? And they said, so who is they? Who is it when they say, and we're down here in 43 verse 7, when it says they said, the man asked us pointedly about ourselves and our family, saying, is your father still alive? It says, have you another brother? And we told him according to these words. Could we possibly have known that he would say, bring your other brother also? The other brothers step up. Judah steps up first and says, hey, Dad, there's only one way to go. You can only get there one way. You're not willing to do it, but I'm just telling you that the father gets fired up at Judah and says, why'd you do it? And all the other brothers step up and say, hey, Dad, hold on, man. This is what he said. We need to, if we are going to support each other, right? When somebody makes the right call in your family, in your circle, in your whatever, and they get hammered about it, or they get kicked back about it, blow back about it, whatever you want to, and then we're like, I'm not going to step into that thing because, I'm going to let him. Or if you're at work and somebody makes the right call and the supervisor pulls them in and says, you can't, and all of us, I'm not going to, as somebody makes the right call, what are we called to do as Christians? What do we do that, man? I'm telling you, are we weak in that? I mean, or are we supporting somebody, or are we trying to talk somebody out about doing the right thing? Well, if you do the right thing on this, then this is going to go haywire, and it may not. Let's just not say anything about it. Let's just let that go on, and no, that's why we're here, right? That's why we have a group of people. That's why we have accountability partners. That's why because when somebody says something, what do we need to do? Just like he did right here. They said, hey, man, don't jump on Judah. It was all of us that did that. Look, Dad, this is the way that went. We need to do better about that, because I'm telling you, when we can't trust, if I can't trust that Kip's going to have my back on something, or David, or am I going to do it? Or am I just going to sit in the background and say, well, we'll just let this one fly by? Right?
Even in society now.
It's society.
Society tells you to do the wrong thing so much.
Absolutely. Society continually tells us to do the wrong thing.
It's hard to stand.
And they continually tell you, if you stand up as a Christian and go against this or say something, then you're going to be censored. You're going to be debunked. You're going to be criticized. So nobody says anything. And what have we come to in a society? Where are we at? Trouble. I mean, everything's going crazy. Nobody's saying anything. We're in a mess, man. We need to know that somebody, when I make a stand and when I say the right thing, that I've got somebody has my back. And that's what a family is. And that's why we're in this fellowship. And that's why we're Christians. And that's why let's make the right call. Let's do the right thing. Right. I mean, that's just the way that is. So here we go. Let's keep on going. So Judah said to his father, I want to see the difference in this. Then Judah, this is verse 8. Then Judah said to Israel, his father, this is after the brothers have stepped up. They've had his back. They said, Dad, step back because this is what went on. He says, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, and we may live and not die, both we and you and also our little ones. What are they doing with the father right there? What are they saying to the father right there? Judah saying, send the kid with us, let us go. So we're going to stay alive and we're all not going to die. He's saying, look, he's trying to point out to him right here when he says, both we and you and also our little ones. He's trying to show them, look, stop being so self-centered and only thinking about yourself. This is affecting the whole family, man. You're killing the whole family on this. I got to speak some sense to you on that, right? I mean, what is it that I'm just telling you, you can look at your life and you say, what is it that I keep? And I decide that this is important to me and I don't care how it affects the family. Do we do that? I'm telling you, we do that. I don't care how my kids think about this. I don't care how my wife thinks about this. I enjoy doing this. I mean, and you can, and you get in trouble on this thing, but I mean, even you look at somebody that hunts all the time. I don't know if anybody hunts in here all the time. They say, I'm going to go hunting on every night of the week, man. I'm going to go hunting on the weekends. I'm going to take a week over here and a week here, and I'm going to go hunting. I don't care that my family doesn't see me. I don't care that whatever. I'm going to watch football and I'm going to go to sporting events and I'm going to do this and I'm not going to be involved. And your family's sitting there going, man, we need you here, man. And look, this is something I like. I don't care what you think about it. I'm doing my thing and I'm going to go about it. And he said, look, Dad, you're so focused on Benjamin. You're killing the whole family, man. We're all going to die right here because you are so self-centered on that. Having the right priorities. I want you to just evaluate your life and think about what your priorities are. Why are we doing the things we're doing? Am I putting myself above everybody else? Right? Do I put myself above everybody else? Because that's what he's doing right here. Now he uses, and I'm going to look right here. When you go back over in Genesis 42, okay? Because over here he tells him, he says, look, let us go that we may live and not die. What did over here in Genesis 42, what did Jacob say to the brothers when he initially told them to go? It said, when Jacob saw there was grain in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, why do you look at one another? He said, indeed, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down to that place and buy for us there that we may live and not die. He's saying, look, I'm bringing up the same thing that you said to us. You wanted us to go when it was on your terms. You wanted to help us and survive. But now when it's on somebody else's terms and it's against you, you don't care about your own words that you're already saying. You're being a hypocrite, man. When it's good for you, it's good for you. When it's not good for you, it's not good for you, man. We need to be consistent in our families, right? Consistent in the things we do. We need to love the people in our lives the way we're supposed to love them. So he says that to him. And then look what he says here. And it says, I myself will suffer for him. And it says, and you also, and from my hand, you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. For if we had not lingered, surely by now we would have returned this second time. So what is the difference? This is something, what did Simeon say? When he said, Dad, let us go down, let us bring Benjamin. I'll tell you what, I'll sacrifice my kids, man. I'll let you take my kids and you can kill them, right? And he's like, Jacob's like, what are you talking about, man? Now, Judah, he says, look, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to take some personal responsibility in this. If we screw this thing up, if I don't get back and I don't do whatever, then you take it out on me. I'm not going to put my family in it, right? How do we do about that, man? I'm telling you, I'm going to make this stand. If it screws up on me, well, my family's going to suffer and everything, but I'm going to stand tall and I'm going to be okay. And it's not going to affect me, right? He's taking some responsibility. He's taking some personal responsibility saying, this is the way this thing needs to be. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to, with my life, because with my integrity, with who I am, I'm going to back this thing. That's what we need to do. If we believe in the cause that we're doing, right? We need to believe in ourselves and say, you know what? I believe so much in what God's told me that I trust that he's going to do whatever it is in my life that is supposed to be done. And if not, it's going to come back on me. But when you live with your kids, right? You tell your kids, you need to be giving this amount. You don't need to be doing this and in my life, I'm out there not giving. I'm out there doing whatever I'm telling them not to do, right? And I'm like, no, they need to see that I'm doing the same thing and that I'm willing to sacrifice myself, just like I'm asking you to sacrifice. When I do therapy with people, right? I'm out there and I'm telling you, look, I need you to go and I need you to do this amount of exercise. I need you to eat this way. I need you to do what I'm telling you to do, right? They look at me and I'm 400 pounds and I'm out of shape and I'm smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer and they're like, what the frick are you talking? What are you talking about, man? They're not going to listen to that, right? So I have to keep myself in shape. I have to do what I'm supposed to do because I want you to follow me, right? And that's what he's saying. Look, follow me. We're going to get through this thing. That's where he's getting ready to go. And he says, look, if we'd already gone, if we'd already been there, we would have been back by now. If we would have gone 6 months ago, we never would have been down in the dumps and right here about to starve. But because you procrastinated, because you tried to do it on your own, because you tried to find your own way, we're dying, man. How far are we going to let it go down before we decide it's time to take a stand? And that's what you can be left with this week to think about. Whether it's in my family, whether it's with my wife or my husband or my kids or my job, or how far am I going to let it go down before I decide to say, you know what, man, I'm done doing this stuff. I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to quit doing this. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start whatever it is in your life, right? We've got to, because if we don't, I'm telling you, the ship's going down, man. Who knows if it can be restored, right? Right here, he's gonna finally, Jacob is so, he's just like, whatever, man, go ahead and do your thing. We're going to talk about that next week, but we don't know if we let it go so far. How do we know if it's ever going to be restored? How do we know if we're ever going to be able to have that relationship with our kids? How do I know if I'm going to be able to have that relationship with my wife? How do I know if my finances aren't going to go in the hole and I'm going to lose my house? You've got to make a stand, man. That's what he's doing. He's saying there's one way to do it. I'm going to make a stand, and that's what I'm going to do. Dad, look, I'm going to bear the responsibility of this thing because it means that much. I care enough about my family. I'm going to take a stand for them, and I'm going to do what I need to do. We've got to have that mindset. He can't do it in himself. He's doing it the right way. He's doing it in Christ, right? I can only do it through Christ. I can only do what I'm supposed to do by the power of Christ in me. I can go out there and flail around on my own authority, on my own power. That's not going to last, man. You're going to flame out on that. You're going to burn out. The Lord has the way. We just need to follow it and do it. Okay.
It goes with the sermon last week about deciding. You got to decide to make the choice.
You got to decide to make the choice. That's it.
And once you make it,
and once you make it, you've got to make the choice. You got to commit to it. You got to do what the Lord tells you to do. And is it easy to be honest? Is it easy to make the right choice? Is it easy to be, to stand up to people that's not easy. But did the Lord ever tell us it was going to be easy? Did he ever tell us that, look, Chad, you follow me and it's going to be a cakewalk? He said, no, man, you follow me, man, you're going to pick up your cross and I don't have a place to lay my head, man. This is rough. People hate me. The devil hates me. People are against me. But I'm telling you what, if you do it the right way, I'm going to be with you every step of the way. And I can get you through this. I'm not looking for right now, because if you look for right now, they're starving. They're looking for where they're going. And I'm going to get grain, man. And I'm going to live and I'm going to survive and we're going to do it. And we're going to make it. Right. Anyway, I got to quit. So we're going to pick back up here. We're going to talk about the trip over there next week. As these brothers finally make the decision, they're going to actually make the trip over there. And then we're going to see. It's interesting what we're going to talk about next week, as far as there's just something interesting about it that I'm not going to talk about right now. Anyway, so any comments? We're on time. I'm telling you guys, online at whatever time, what is it? 11, what time, or 12 o'clock, or like the baptism. For you guys that have never seen that, I've never seen it like they do it here, but they're doing a baptism at 12 o'clock following the service. And I take they'll put it on the TV or recorder or whatever. And I think you really enjoy that. I think, by what I'm hearing, I think it's really going to be neat. A lot of people on here have never seen a baptism, right? Join the service online at 11. Pastor Smith, he's a great preacher, man. I'm telling you, I'm just telling you, let's grow. Let's continue to grow. Anyway, so any comments online before we leave? Any comments in the class before we leave? And we're going to check out. Let me ask